the Black Diamond Guide BT. Also the same transceiver as the Peeps Pro BT. Same transceivers, just different badges. Okay, this is Black Diamond's top of the range, all singing, all dancing avalanche transceiver. 3 antenna, digital processing, mark function, scan function, analog mode, and the most user configurable. On the back we've got the battery compartment secured with a screw, and then if you're familiar with most Peeps transceivers, they share this selector switch up the side which is power on and off and search and transmit mode. Can't move it, sort of lock switch on the front, and then we've got the mark and scan buttons. So the mark button is very common to most digital transceivers on the market. The scan is more unique to Peeps and Black Diamond. So when you want to use the transceiver, the power slider is locked. So you slide across the lock button, slide it up to send. It does a little setup routine, offers you a group search function, and then into transmit mode. Okay, it's a little graphic on the side, and the X on the front says X antenna. So this transceiver has 2 antennas that it can transmit from, and it chooses which one it's going to use to optimize you being found. That sort of smart antenna technology that a lot of transceivers have these days. Okay, so when you're out and about on the hill, that's where you have the transceiver. Okay, when you're in transmit mode, the slider is also locked. When you come to use your transceiver, again you slide the lock button across and up to search, and it goes into search mode. No signals being received, so I just have the double dots flashing, and I'd be doing my course search protocol right now. The search strip width for the Guide BT is 60 meters. So one of the widest search strips available on the market, and unique to Peeps and Black Diamond is that the Guide and the Recon have circular reception fields. So before all the other transceivers, if they say they have a 60 meter reception field, it's shaped like an egg, like an ellipse. So it's 60 meters on the long axis, front to back, but probably only 40 meters on the shorter axis, side to side. The Guide and the Recon BT, what they're saying is if they have a circular reception area. So with a diameter of 60 meters, the transceiver in the middle, it will receive anywhere in that circle. So no difference front to back to the other models, but better searching side to side. So it should be harder to miss the transceiver during the core search phase with a circular search pattern. Okay, so I'm in search there, nothing's being received. If I finish searching or there's a secondary avalanche, I just slide the slider, I don't need to worry about the lock button, and it locks back into transmit mode. The Guide BT does have an auto revert, so after so long with no movement it would just revert to transmitting, worried that I've been buried in a secondary avalanche. This feature is disabled by default but can be changed in the settings. On the front we've got the 2 buttons that we use in operation. So we've got the flag mark button, very common to all transceivers. If I'm searching and I've found the first transceiver and I've got enough manpower, rather than dig that transceiver and turn it off before going to search for a second transceiver, I can use the mark button, and that way the transceiver will stop telling me about that transceiver and only tell me about other transceivers for the signals it's receiving. Very common, really good feature for multiple burials, although statistics do show that most of the time you just need to find the first person and dig them up, but it is a very common feature. The other button is the scan button. This is definitely an advanced feature to be used in complicated multiple burials. There's a couple of things. First of all, it scans the entire area and gives you an overview of what's going on. So it tells you how many signals it's receiving that are less than 5 meters away, how many signals it's receiving that are less than 20 meters away, and then finally how many signals it's receiving less than 60 meters away. So you can, in your mind, get an idea. Say there are 3 people buried, you know, roughly how far away from you they all are, or even further than that, the signal's not being received. Another part of the scan function is the transceiver reduces its range and becomes more tolerant of older transceivers that may be suffering from frequency drift. Frequency drift is when a transceiver transmits further away from the standard 457 MHz than it should. And as digital transceivers have progressed, they have become more fussy about the signal that they receive being bang on the frequency. So one of the things it does is it becomes more tolerant of older transceivers at the cost of range, but if it finds a transceiver, when it does that, it will stay tolerant with a lower range and greater tolerance. So if you were out with a friend who you knew had an older transceiver and you didn't pick him up straight away, then that would be one of the first things you did. Another advanced feature this transceiver has is analog mode. So if I hold down the scan button for 3 seconds, I can get the transceiver into analog mode. Then there's no digital processing. I just hear the signals as they're received by the transceiver as raw beeps. And again, I can adjust the sensitivity of the transceiver up and down with these 2 buttons. This mode is mainly used for a technique called microstrips. So if a number of people are buried, all right on top of each other in a small area, their signals overlap so badly and are so close together that a digital transceiver does struggle to pick them apart. So what you do is you actually end up with a very insensitive transceiver that only really picks signals up within 5 meters of itself, and then you walk across the debris in very small strips, and you only really know about someone when you're virtually right on top of them. But in this way you can find any number of people who are very close together. Again, this situation hardly ever happens, and it's a very advanced search technique which is just irrelevant to most people. But if you're after a really advanced device with these features, then it is there for you. This transceiver is called the Guide BT, and the BT stands for Bluetooth. If I hold down the mark button and turn the transceiver on, you can see that I've got the Bluetooth symbol has come up on the screen now. I go to the app, the Peeps app, which is available on all platforms. Okay, and then I go Device Manager, scan for Bluetooth devices, and there it is, BD Guide BT Sample. Okay, click on that, and it gives me serial number, software version. If there was a software update, it would come up and tell me that the software on my phone needs to be updated. I updated the software on this transceiver yesterday when I got it, and it took about 45 seconds. Okay, and then these are the features that, so we've got auto revert is off, tell it what type of batteries you're using, whether you want it to vibrate, at what distance you want the mark button to become operable. Okay, analog mode, all those kind of things. They're all in there. So it's very easy to adjust the settings of your transceiver. Another great thing that this app does is it has training. So if I go into training, you can see I've got training modes, scenarios and practical knowledge. In here there are absolutely loads of pre-set lessons for you to do with your transceiver. So you go out, maybe with a small group of you, and using the app it guides you through training scenarios to make you a better searcher. It also allows you to create your own sort of mini transceiver park. So you bury your transceivers or hide them, and you can turn them on or off from transmitting using the app without having to dig them up, turn them on and off manually and put them back in the ground again. So it's a great way of constantly changing the search scenarios without having to keep adjusting the transceivers. It's absolutely brilliant because we've always said that, you know, having a transceiver is one thing, but being able to use it and have practiced recently with it is the most important. And Peeps and Black Diamond have gone a long way with this app to making that much easier to achieve, and, you know, increasing everyone's safety out there. So I'm really impressed by that. And the fact that, you know, now when you want to update your transceiver, you no longer have to send it back to a service centre. You know, you can sort it all out yourself. So really good app there from Peeps. So that really is it for the Guide BT. It is a great transceiver with some really good features, you know, and like most of the top level transceivers, you can actually use it in its most basic mode without adjusting anything. You can leave it on the factory settings and in essence it works like a more basic transceiver that doesn't have all those features. So that's great, you can have it. If you grow into it and you want to use all those features as you progress in your avalanche safety knowledge, that's brilliant. And if you just end up using it in its preset mode, then that's all. It's no disadvantage to having those features. You could have perhaps saved yourself a bit of cash and bought a more basic model, but there's actually no other disadvantage to it than that. So a really good transceiver from Black Diamond.